When you're configuring Power Platform licensing and security and governance and monitoring, did you ever wish you could just say, hey, Microsoft, tell me what works best? These are now documented in the North Star architectures for Power Platform, and Ken and Kristian are going to show them today on PowerCat Live. Welcome to PowerCat Live. My name is Phil Topness with the PowerCat team, and I'm here with Ken Auguillard, Principal Program Manager from the Power Platform team, and Kristian Nese, Principal Architect. Hey, you guys.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
Now, Kristian, it looks dark there. You're in Norway, and it's January. This is what Norway looks like in January?
100%, Phil. It's the usual temperature outside, 0 degrees Celsius. It's dark. Certainly the usual start of the year.
Well, hopefully what we're going to talk about here is going to shed some light on at least the Power Platform architecture. We're talking about North Star architectures for Power Platform. What are these?
Well, essentially, it's two things, right? First and foremost, it's an architecture and design methodology, which help to give customers that prescriptive guidance across the critical design domains for the platform, aligned with some design principles to help them navigate. So they understand, what does a good environment strategy look like? What does a good security and compliance posture look like? And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of these different technical domains that we're going to cover. So that's kind of one thing, the methodology itself. And then we're also going to show the other part of this, which is the reference implementation, which help customers to quickly accelerate their adoption of the Power Platform and essentially deploy that into their own tenant.
And so these are prescriptive guidance that cover more than just Power Platform. Is that true?
Yeah, essentially, yes. I think the key focus as of right now is Power Platform on its own, but obviously there's a lot of synergies and segues into, let's say, the Azure scenarios, right? Sure. Primarily inside the different environments and the different application scenarios and composition, primarily around data. But certainly, yes, it's very inclusive from that perspective.
And so what are the things that you cover in these architectures?
So these are real world working examples of things that we know to be good today. And if you have a look at what we have on the screen now, we address licensing, identity and access management. We talk about environments, business continuity and disaster recovery. What does automation and DevOps look like inside of the Power Platform, right? And perhaps maybe something that we get asked a lot about: security, governance, and compliance. I'm extremely passionate about that particular area myself, right? So we have taken in input and helped to develop this design methodology. But again, this is not something that is strictly Microsoft. This is customer driven, customer focused. We do use this internally, right? And again, we use this today with customers, right, in real world scenarios.
And so you mentioned we've learned a lot of this from customers. We've done this internally. So all of this was possible before. But what's new about having these architectures built in one place?
What I've also always found is that documentation is great, but let's be a little bit honest here. It's long and it can be somewhat boring. And really all I want to do is get to the meat of the problem and understand what are other customers doing, so that you don't have to figure out what good looks like, because you've been asking us to tell you what good looks like. So we are now doing that.
Yeah, come on, Microsoft, give it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So this sounds like a very comprehensive architecture. Can you kind of give us an idea what this looks like when it all comes together?
Absolutely. So bringing up my screen here now, and what we're looking at essentially is the overall architecture for Power Platform as a whole. So you can see kind of like, the tenant layout, the various environments happening. There's a zoom in into the environment, but also importantly, it's the outcome of the North Star architecture is the quote unquote landing zone for the Power Platform, right? And what we mean by that is that essentially this architecture that provides essentially all the guardrails, all the utilities that the environments would need from think of it almost like how you would build a city, right? When you come and you lay down the house and the various things that you need, you already have electricity, you have gas, water supply, and so on and so forth. So that's the intent of the landing zone, which is the output of this, where any basically persona, regardless of citizen dev, pro dev, they can come in, they can safely build, deploy, migrate, do whatever they want with the application, and they conform to the security requirements for the organization. It's also an important thing to mention here is the scale aspect, right? Because environments is how organization would scale in Power Platform. So it's critical to have all these foundational pieces in place so that the customer actually can scale. And that's one of the key aspects of this as well.
So these architectures are so comprehensive and they've got years and years of Microsoft experience in them. Where do you go from here?
Let me show you basically what we're working on in parallel. This is not something we are releasing today, but it's coming shortly. But it's obviously the reference implementation as well. And the starting point we have taken here is to essentially leverage Azure as being the anchor, right? Because there's a lot of various components that exist in Azure that can also be leveraged into the Power Platform in terms of billing profiles, monitoring, auditing, security, general observability that you can apply to the environments as well. So we use this as an opportunity to essentially bring a curated deployment experience that allows customers to, if you go through the guidance we have, you can identify some of those design areas here. And we then clearly call out what's the recommendation from a Microsoft point of view. And, so customers can go and get their initial architecture provisioned and deployed all the way to the environments and so on and so forth. So this again is work in progress. It will come, hopefully very shortly. And this is like, the deployment experience into the architecture itself.
So the guidance portion is already out there. The link is in the description. People can go out there and already start to use it, but you're actually asking for feedback too, right?
Governance and compliance in like much of the other parts of the platform are sometimes an ever-changing thing.
Sure.
And we feel that the methodology and what we're delivering will most likely need to evolve with the times as well as our product progresses. Keep in mind, we're trying to be as plugged in as possible. So we want that honest and earnest feedback from everyone.
What a great opportunity to go and not only find out what the best of the best architectures are for Power Platform, but also shape the roadmap too. Ken and Kristian, thanks for sharing North Star architectures today.
Thank you, Fleur.
Now, before you go, we are making new videos every week. Click this Microsoft logo to subscribe and you'll be the first to see them. And look over here for a couple of videos that can make you a Power Platform expert.